Before 1979, Iran and Israel were unlikely but close partners bound by shared strategic interests in a hostile region. Both were non-Arab states surrounded by adversaries, making their quiet alliance a pragmatic necessity. Under the Shah, Iran saw Israel as a counterweight to powerful Arab neighbors, while Israel relied on Iranian oil and intelligence cooperation. Mossad and Savak worked together, and Israel helped Iran with military and agricultural technology. Their partnership was discreet, never formalized, so as not to provoke backlash at home or in the Muslim world. This alliance, based on mutual benefit rather than shared values, lasted nearly 3 decades. It was a cornerstone of regional stability, showing that strategic interests could override deep differences. But this era of cooperation was always fragile, dependent on the Shah's rule and the delicate balance he maintained. The stage was set for a dramatic shift that would redefine the region. The 1979 Iranian Revolution upended everything, replacing the Shah with Ayatollah Khomeini and a radical new regime. Iran's new leaders rejected the West and made hostility to Israel a core part of their ideology. The old alliance vanished overnight. Iran now called Israel an illegitimate imperialist outpost. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was handed to the PLO, symbolizing the new order. Iran severed all ties and began supporting anti-Israel groups, making the Palestinian cause central to its foreign policy. For Israel, this was a strategic disaster, losing a key ally and gaining a powerful, ideologically driven enemy. The conflict shifted from pragmatic rivalry to an ideological crusade. Iran's revolution inspired militants across the region, and the two countries became locked in open hostility. The stage was set for decades of proxy conflict, covert operations, and relentless tension. The Middle East would never be the same. After 1979, Iran and Israel fought a shadow war, avoiding direct conflict but battling through proxies and covert means. Iran built a network of militant allies, most notably Hezbollah in Lebanon, arming and training them to pressure Israel. Groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza joined this axis of resistance, keeping Israel on constant alert. Israel in turn targeted Iranian nuclear sites and scientists, aiming to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Cyber attacks, sabotage, and mysterious explosions became routine, as both sides tried to outmaneuver each other. The conflict spilled into cyberspace and the high seas, with attacks on ships and infrastructure. This undeclared war kept the region on edge, with each side inflicting damage while avoiding all-out war. The stakes kept rising, making the conflict ever more dangerous. By 2018, the conflict began to break into the open, especially in war-torn Syria. Iran expanded its military presence there, transferring advanced weapons and building bases near Israel's border. Israel responded with hundreds of airstrikes, openly targeting Iranian assets to prevent a permanent threat. The war between the wars was no longer secret. Israel was sending a clear message. The US withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and renewed sanctions fueled further escalation. Iran accelerated its nuclear program, and both sides grew bolder, risking direct clashes. High-profile incidents like the US killing of Qasem Soleimani brought the conflict dangerously close to all-out war. Syria became the main flashpoint, with each strike risking a wider conflict. The invisible lines that once kept the fight in the shadows were blurring. The risk of direct state-on-state war was now real. In June 2025, the conflict exploded into open warfare. A deadly Iranian drone strike on an Israeli intelligence facility killed top officers, prompting Israel to launch massive airstrikes deep inside Iran. Israeli jets targeted IRGC bases, drone factories, and nuclear sites, marking the most direct attack ever on Iranian soil. Iran retaliated with hundreds of missiles and drones, some hitting Israeli cities and military sites despite advanced defenses. For the first time, civilians in both countries faced the terror of direct attacks. The world watched in alarm as the two powers traded blows, with international calls for restraint largely ignored. The US moved forces to the region but avoided direct involvement. National pride and the desire for revenge drove both sides, pushing the region to the brink. The shadow war had erupted into full-scale conflict. By late June 2025, a fragile ceasefire held, but the scars ran deep. The assumption that the conflict would stay in the shadows was shattered. Direct war had become reality. Regional stability was at its lowest in decades, with neighbors fearing wider war. International diplomacy scrambled to prevent further escalation, but trust was gone. In Israel, calls for stronger deterrence grew. In Iran, hardliners felt vindicated. Civilians on both sides suffered, hardening public opinion and making peace harder to imagine. Economic fallout rippled across the region, threatening global energy supplies. The conflict was no longer abstract, it was a lived, devastating reality. The risk of miscalculation remained dangerously high, with any spark threatening renewed war. The world now faced a stark question. Could diplomacy pull the region back, or had a new era of open conflict begun?